Hello and welcome back to Warcraft Daily for today, the 15th of January 2014. So in today's news we have a few interesting things. The first thing is a possible customer loyalty program. It's really more a post that was blue tagged for visibility to encourage discussions, so we're going to do exactly what they want, and we're going to discuss. Then some chat about the legendary quest and how I think the Miss Pandaria one was kinda terrible, and then we're going to round it off with a tweet from Watcher about the Flex Pug item levels, which is kind of interesting. So, first of all, a customer loyalty program. Well, somebody just basically made a post in the forums, and I can't remember what blue it was, but they essentially just tagged the post because they wanted to stimulate discussion. He said that it's a big internal debate at Blizzard, and also externally among players, and that they really haven't been sure what to do, but obviously, as we can quite apparently tell, it's not really the thing that they have kind of embarked on, as of yet anyway. So I suppose this is kind of similar to an annual pass in that you do get a reward in return for subscribing to the game. However, I think one of the key differences is that this would be a far more long-term thing, and that I would hope it would be done slightly differently to an annual pass. Don't get me wrong, I think an annual pass is really, actually, if done right, a fantastic tool, because it's of great value to Blizzard in that they keep their subscriber numbers up, and it's also of good value to the customer, because we get one or two free things, maybe we get free Diablo 3, we get free stuff, Blizzard gets some good return, and overall it's just one of those mutually beneficial transactions, so it's fantastic. The thing is though, would a loyalty program? Well, first of all, I think that one of the key things is that the loyalty program would have to prioritize consecutive months played, cumulative months played rather than consecutive, because it would be pretty shit if you had played the game for 11 months straight and then you dropped a month and lost all of your loyalty program rewards. I think that would be crap. So it should really be cumulative to just represent overall loyalty to the game. And I hate saying loyalty, but it's kind of the buzzword that's used here. Obviously, you shouldn't really be loyal to a game. That's maybe leaning too much on fanboyism, I guess. Anyway, so since this would be a loyalty thing, I think cumulative does make a lot more sense, because then people aren't punished for unsubbing for a month or that kind of thing. It would suck if, say, you're in this position now where you're done with Siege of Orgrimmar, you're done with the Timeless Isles, but you still have to sub to the game for 4 months because you don't want to lose your customer loyalty reward thingy. So that would be kind of shit. Anyway, basically, I'd say, yeah, make it cumulative and just last over quite a long time. So in terms of rewards, what could we do? Well, first of all, I think credit towards an in-game store item is probably one thing that would work out quite well. So maybe for every month you get X amount of credit, or maybe every 3 months you get some credit, but essentially what this would mean is that over a period of months you would be able to get maybe a free mount or a free pet or something like that. I think this is quite good because it's not a ginormous crazy reward, and it does actually really physically in-game reward people with playing more. It's also not an exclusive thing in that someone can still just buy these things outright, just that it could either be a little bit cheaper or free because of credit towards it. So that's one good thing. The next would be credit towards paid character transfers, and honestly I think this should probably overlap with credit towards in-game store items. So right now their biggest argument for the high price of character transfers and things like that is because they don't want players just flipping all over the place from realm to realm. And that's fine. Basically, it would be kind of shit if people could just kind of up and move from one realm to another, and then it would just wreck balance. That's why they still have their fee in this and then want to do free character transfers to try to balance things out. Then of course, Connected Realms being the main method at the minute. Now, personally, I do think that £15, $20 is whatever, is just far too much for a character transfer. It's ridiculously cost prohibitive. It costs more than like 2 months, or maybe the same as 2 months of playing the game, or something similar to that. And it's just too much money. It really does suck. And if you want to move 5 characters to a realm where your friend is playing, that's going to cost you just too much money. I don't have the numbers in my head at the minute. So I think that if there was credit towards a feature like this for the old players, it would be quite good, and it would reduce the cost, make it more accessible, but it would still allow for players who are experienced to move off dead servers. And the reason I say players who are experienced, basically there's a lot of people who start off in a server, and maybe over the period of 1 or 2 years that server ends up being a little bit dead. Well, okay, that probably won't be as much of a problem with Connected Realms, but it would mean that those players would be able to have a non-punishing way to transfer their characters over. And then since this credit would be used up with the transfer, it wouldn't lead to this ridiculous spamming of free transfers all over the place. Overall, I just think this would be a really nice balanced way to introduce this feature. Another thing too is that as players play the game, maybe you've played for 6 years and a bunch of your friends join, or maybe you just meet some new people, whatever, and they're all in a different server and you want to move a character over there. Well, this would facilitate that far better. It would allow just enough flexibility for established players to have a continuous social circle in the game. That is very important for player retention, and it's also just very important for enjoying the game, because you enjoy the game when you're with friends. That's just kind of how it works. Anyway, the next thing is an in-game title, and I suppose this makes sense, I suppose. Maybe you just get a title of the Veteran or something like that. Now, I don't really like this being ultra easily distinguished, but that said, since players who already buy a mount or something like that are already cosmetically distinguished, I suppose it doesn't really make much sense to not allow a title. And the title is just going to say, the Veteran. It kind of just, it's your badge of having played the game for a very long time, and I think that's kind of fair. So yeah, maybe that would be a good way of doing it. Next, we have free rewards, so perhaps when you hit your 6th month of playing the game or your 1st year of playing the game, you get a special mount or a special pet, and I don't mean a pre-existing one, I mean perhaps they just have a special one for people who are veterans of the game that cannot be purchased any other way. Now, I suppose the problem here is it perhaps giving these people too much, because they have been paying the same amount a month as everyone else? So perhaps there is an argument there, but I don't think it would be a massive issue. Like, people are already okay with there being, say, a special mount for the Collector's Edition, so maybe that wouldn't be too bad. And perhaps as time goes on, you can add, maybe every 2 years, you add a new reward for people, so that by the time you played the game for 3 years, you actually have a cool little plethora of things to show off. Yeah, I've been playing WoW, and I'm a veteran, and I have all these cool things to show off. That said, some people could see this as giving too many free mounts, and actually, in combination with there already being store-exclusive mounts, I think that putting the additional work into these free loyalty program mounts would actually be, I think, just too much. It might actually take away from the free mounts that are in the game. I'm already kind of concerned that too many mounts are being shuftied off. There, I'll use a colloquial word. Shuftied off into this store, and it's not being, the work isn't being put into free mounts, which means that just the normal free players, not even free players, the normal subscription players, fuck's sake, don't even get as many free mounts. So that's definitely an absolute worry. Then I think a free month. That would be another decent reward for a system like this. And I'm not too sure if they would do this because of the obvious business implications, but that hasn't really stopped maybe Tesco or Asda or Walmart having a loyalty program. And I think a free month every year or something like that would be kind of cool. Maybe you could gift it to a friend to help them get into the game, or use it in your own account or something like that. Now, it's probably worth saying all these different ideas that I've came up here, they're not things that I wouldn't combine all of them into one system. I'm just throwing out ideas. So if you do have any ideas yourself, please do let me know in the comments. We can have a bit of a chat about this. And perhaps if I do roll this into a future video as like an idea or a suggestion for the game, I can take your feedback into account, which would be kind of cool. Anyway, next, there has been some chat about the legendary questline. This is something that I definitely have a lot to say about. So, there was a post, and it was about the quest Execution in Mists of Pandaria by Bashiok. Basically, he said that he wanted to avoid the tedious versus challenging argument that the OP was putting forth, because he said he wasn't really feeling eloquent enough to tackle it, and instead he talked about variation. He said that the game needed to have a variety of different elements to it, so that, as a whole, it could appeal to any particular player at any moment in their schedule. Which I suppose is good for some people and bad for others. Some people may see that as the streamlining of the game, but that's not really the debate that I want to get into at the minute. In the case of the legendary quest in Mists of Pandaria, he said that they wanted a reward that everyone could follow through the expansion, and it would kind of be a part of their character's story. So, they said that it was also very important to support LFR, so that the legendaries could be accessible to all difficulty levels, and they're actually pretty much happy with how that turned out, though they do agree that the 3,000 Valor points was just too damn much, and not really a legendary thing to have to do, which is absolutely true. He also said that there is a lot of room to improve, and overall he did agree sort of, and was on the same page as the OP, who basically wanted things to be a little bit more hard and a little bit less grindy. So, when you think about it, this quest had 2 kill X amount of mob rep grinds, and then it also had 3 random drop item quests, and then a 3000 VP quest, and then times when you just had to randomly go back and kill a raid boss that you'd already killed before, with Lei Shen and the Sha of Fear. They were not fun, they were grindy, they were just completely abhorrent, disgusting pieces of design which should be killed. It's funny, Blizzard, for like a group that have so many talented designers, sometimes they just make the most idiotic design decisions, and this really was one of them. I think that it's something that maybe hampers MMO development, where they feel like they need to add in one of these grinds to elongate the game. What they don't realize is that there are probably other more gameplay-focused ways of making this content last. Anyway, so let's suggest some improvements. First of all, challenge. This quest was not hard at all, and you didn't feel like you earned anything at the end, because there was no challenge. You get good payoff when you overcome a challenge. When there's no challenge to overcome, there's no payoff. And really, it just, you felt more like you deserved something because of all the feckin' boring shite that you had to go through, rather than you earned something. And there's a difference there between deserve and earn. It's like, well, actually I think a personal example is probably the best. I used to work in a chip shop, and fuck me, it was the most boring job ever. Especially in those parts in the summer where it was like, it wasn't really at the rush time, but I was still in from like 12 to 5, and you only would have a few customers. Now this was a boring grind, and I felt like I deserved that goddamn money, because I was bored as fuck. I didn't feel like I earned it because I made really damn good chips, unlike the other people who underdid the chips because they wanted to process the customers faster. Those people are bastards and the scourge of humanity because they ruin the good name of chips. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, I felt like I had been deserving the money because of the time I put in, not like I earned the money because I did a good job. And there's a key gameplay difference there. You should feel like you really earned that legendary, not that you deserve it because you did boring things. So I think that there should have been some harder elements to the overall quest structure that were gameplay based rather than just collect X. I think that in order to cater to everyone, they can definitely make it non-gear related and still have something be kinda hard. I don't know exactly how, but say there's a mob that you fight, and it's not like the mob does a lot of direct damage, but maybe there's mechanics like standing on the floor or just various raid style things that don't really rely on gear, they more rely on you actually being not a complete dimwit. So maybe they can incorporate more things like that into the quests. Then I also think some more of the epic freeform attack-defend quests that I talked about in a past Q&A could work really well here. They would give the player a really cool sense of agency, and it would actually make you feel like a hero, which is something that feels legendary. But still, challenging stuff that isn't tedious is essentially what we need, not just grinding through ultra-simple LFRs. And here's another thing, right? These LFRs were designed to be done once or twice to see the content, and yet the quest required you to run through them many times, maybe 6+ times. That's just unacceptable. That's ridiculous. It's stupid. It makes no sense. And I think that's one of the things that really burned people the most. Was just, maybe you're about to kill Will of the Emperor, you need one more Sigil of Power, and you don't get it. Tough shit. It was just not fun. Anyway, so then, story. I think the story quests in the Mists of Pandaria Legendary were definitely the better parts of the Legendary. And, there should have been more of these, and they should have been more frequent. In Warlords, they could say, push a new set of quests every 1 or 2 months, and then have them unlock every few days, so that maybe this set of quests lasts 2 weeks or something like that. I'd say a little bit like the 5.1 storyline quests, which a lot of people did like. This would keep people invested in the story for far longer, and would also allow the story to build up over a longer period of time, and culminate into a more challenging epic quest that is just better crafted, and better set to give people this kind of epic legendary feeling, which means that you will actually feel like you like you earned the legendary reward at the end. And then also, finally, no RNG bullshit. Those damn sigils, whatever, and the marks of Lei Shen and all that bull, they were just the worst thing. And really, after killing the Sha of Fear, you didn't want to go back to farm the place again, and even after you had done all that farming, you didn't want to go back and kill the Sha of Fear for another time, just to get the crystallized Sha thingy. That wasn't fun. It was crap gameplay, and it made no lore sense at all. Now, I totally get the gameplay is over story for Blizzard, and that makes sense. But when it's to the detriment of the gameplay and makes no sense to the story, then it's just simply bad for the game. And that is what that RNG bullshit is. So anyway, there's some improvements and criticism. If you have any of your own, leave them in the comments, the usual sort of thing. But overall, I just think the Legendary Quest was a bit of a problem. I think that they should still continue this whole Legendary over an expansion idea, but they should also still have the traditional style of Legendary item, because they were really fun, and it's kind of shit that they took them out of Pandaria. I'm pretty sure they said they were going to still do it in Warlords. Anyway, so to round off the show, we have a tweet from Watcher. It's about flex pug item levels, and he said that in Wing 1 and Wing 2 of Siege of Orgrimmar, they're usually pugged and flexed by people with 530 gear, and that Wing 3 and 4 are usually in 540 gear, though often they do see that content being done in pugs by people with lower gear. They're really just averages. Now, LFR drops 528 gear, and so in combination with Burden of Eternity gear, LFR gear, upgrades, and all that stuff, it is definitely conceivable that people have a relatively straightforward path from just regular LFR player into flexible Siege of Orgrimmar. It's also worth saying, though, that there's some groups that only down the first few bosses, and they should probably just have a item level of maybe 520 or something like that. So overall, if you are trying to get into Flex Siege of Orgrimmar, it shouldn't be a giant problem, and even if you are a bit low, then you can always just try Wing 1 a few times and get some gear off Immersius and Protectors. It's also worth saying that Siege of Orgrimmar was the first tier to have Flex, and that nobody, like, you wouldn't have had a Flex player who can just naturally progress into the Flex mode of Siege of Orgrimmar because there was no Flex Throne of Thunder. In Warlords, Flex will be there from the very start, so it means that progressing from subsequent tiers into Flex mode should be quite a lot easier. That's definitely a good thing. Anyway, so he also said that while many constantly look for heroic gear players and that kind of silly stuff, much like it was back in the day with Ice Crown 10 pugs, honestly, very few of those people actually turn up. And really, he said that it turns out that many people just want to be carried, given the choice regardless of difficulty level, which is why they're going to have those ridiculously high entry requirements. And honestly, those entry requirements are generally not a thing that I see being as massive of an issue. I mean, yeah, they're an issue, but those groups end up dropping the requirements over time because they cannot find enough 560 or something crazy geared people for their pugs. But anyway, this has gone on for 17 minutes, so it's definitely one of the longer Warcraft dailies. And yeah, if you have any comments, feedback, responses, all that stuff, leave them in the comments. If you enjoyed the show, please thumbs up, because it really helps me out. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.